Now, the last thing that I want to share with you is all this stuff is pretty exciting to me. But the next one is I started having discussions with Ibu Rini, our State Enterprises Minister, right, and with Pak Darmin, of course, our Economics Coordinating Minister, and so on. And within the economic team, we're starting to design programs to crowdsource data. Yeah. So, give you an example. What we want to do is we're going to run a pilot in certain regions where we work with BRI to give subsidized smartphones to farmers and poultry farmers and so on. And a few things. It'll be bundled with financial services, right? So we would encourage the farmers to borrow money from BRI so that they no longer have to borrow money from loan sharks. Yeah. So one thing that traps a lot of farmers in selling their product cheaply, right, is because they're up to their ears in debt. Basically, loan sharks come in, lend the money at 60-70% per year, and then come harvest time, they say, "Oh, don't worry, we'll just take your harvest, right, settle your debts," right? Now, we need to get PRI in there, or anybody else who wants to, right, lending at 18% even, or lower, right, so that the farmers are no longer up to their ears in debt come harvest time, and therefore financially pressured to unload their harvests, at a very cheap price. But the smartphone would come preloaded with certain applications where they can input their production data, right? So what are they planting? When do they expect to harvest, right? What is the price they're hoping for? And basically through mobile apps, they would be connected directly to the wholesale markets, pasar induk, right? To traders, and we want to achieve a lot of price transparency. In the course of doing that, right, in the course of creating this platform for farmers, traders, buyers, bankers, borrowers, we'll be creating data sets, right? And again, imagine a future where there are millions and millions of farmers and poultry farmers and buyers on these platforms. Effectively, what you're doing is you're crowdsourcing the data. We would no longer, take this as half of a joke, but we would no longer need Badan Pusat Statistik. We would no longer need surveys. Why? Because that data would be collected by millions of people on the ground, right? And uploaded to a cloud. And we as government would have to make sure that the data is accessible to entrepreneurs who can then rebundle it, repackage it, data mine it, and so on. So, why am I sharing all these initiatives with you? Look, I want to give all of you comfort that the raw materials, the basic building blocks, right? Data openness, data accessibility, the collection of data, the acculturating our society, right? To get digital, to get on apps, to go mobile, right? To begin to transact through mobile is happening, right? Because without that, you're not going to have the digital economy on which to build your apps, on which to build your business models and your ideas, right? So I think sometimes when we talk about e-commerce and digital Indonesia, it's easy to become breathless and talk, macro, top down. Well, on these kind of growth figures, it should reach $130 billion in 7 years and blah blah. But if you really think about it, once you dig deep, there's so much infrastructure that needs to be built. There's so much habits that need to be acculturated to farmers, to traders, to factories or handicraft shops. Everybody, basically, you have to get everyone to go digital, right? But I wanted to share these stories straight from the cabinet meetings to assure you that the government is really doing it, is really aware that we need to migrate the economy, migrate the society to these digital platforms because that's our chance to leapfrog. That's our chance to go from old-fashioned 19th century survey-based bad data straight to 21st century crowdsourced, analyzable, data mineable data sets, right? Look, for me, it's a pretty exciting time. I think many of you who know me know that I'm a lifelong gadget freak and very passionate about technology. So to now be situated as part of an economic team like Pak Darmin, Pak Bambang Brojo, all the more the president, the vice president, who really get it, who really are similarly passionate about technology, about the potential for us to leapfrog using these apps, using cloud computing, right? And using these new paradigms. This is really exciting to me. Last example, I think was also really helpful is President, Vice President, and the Mencos have such a good gift for communicating, right? They use the simplest analogies. Give you another example. Last one, data localization. Big boogaboo, right? Every time I go to America, every time I go to Europe, they complain because there are certain schools of thought, not just in Indonesia, but around the world, where they say, well, look, the famous term, right? Data sovereignty. Like I, as government, don't want my citizens' data to be out there where I can't see it, or potentially it's in the hands of somebody else, right? But the way cloud computing works, as we all know, it has to be like that. Like if you don't allow the data to travel freely, you will not be able to take advantage of the global scale economies that is cloud computing, right? But the simple analogy we're now using to fight back against this narrow view is like this. Guys, our companies today have plenty of physical assets overseas already in other people's warehouses, right? Imagine Bulog. Bulog imports rice from Thailand, Vietnam, and other places. And sometimes we don't want to bring the rice in just yet, right? We don't need it. So we ask people to store it in their warehouse. Well, it's no different. If we have data and we store it in somebody else's server, as long as you hold the key, right? I mean, you can argue, Bulog, you're crazy. Why would you put the rice in somebody else's warehouse in Thailand? That's our sovereign property, right? That's taxpayer-funded asset. We should have it onshore in Indonesia where it's safe. Well, of course not, right? I mean, there's good reasons why we store our goods outside, or sometimes invest in other properties outside. Cement Indonesia has a very successful investment in Vietnam, I believe. So data is no different. We might warehouse it in somebody else's data center, but if it's encrypted and we hold the encryption key, it's useless to anybody else, right? Much like if Bulog had rice in somebody else's warehouse in Thailand, as long as it's under lock and key, under security, and we hold the key, right? Our rice is safe. So anyway, that's generally the trend, the policy discussion, and why am I so engaged on it? Because believe it or not, things like that actually fall under the FTAs these days. So FTAs these days is crazy. It's no longer narrowly focused on just tariff lines, tariffs and customs procedures. Now there's chapters on investment protection. There's chapters on environmental standards. There's chapters on sanitary and hygiene. There's chapters on labor standards. And yes, there's chapters on data, e-commerce, and digital economy. And one very hot issue in FTA negotiations is data localization. But basically, the advanced countries want to make sure that there's no protectionism on data, right? Data sovereignty is very bad, not only for the technology providers, like Microsoft or Google or others who want to come into your market in Indonesia. It's actually bad for the consumers as well, right? Because if you're not able to utilize a global infrastructure, right? If you have to build your own subscale specific to Indonesia infrastructure, you won't be able to benefit from the global scale economies, and our consumers will have to pay more, right? And that results in economic inefficiency. So these are some of the latest developments, discussions inside the government I can share. I hope it's helpful to you all. Again, I think you all know that in me, in the president, and the economic team, we all have friends, strong supporters, and please continue to feed me, feed us ideas, issues, challenges, solutions, because I think our ears are more open than ever before. Thank you very much.